On May 17, 2018, in the quiet suburban community of Lakeside Heights, Michigan, local police responded to a frantic 911 call. 27-year-old Rebecca Mitchell was found unconscious in her home, her body displaying signs of severe trauma. Multiple stab wounds marked her torso. A broken lamp lay shattered beside her. Blood spatter analysis would later reveal a violent struggle had taken place throughout the living room. Rebecca was still alive barely. The responding officers noted something unusual about the crime scene. No signs of forced entry. Whoever had attacked Rebecca had been invited in. 3 miles away, at approximately the same time paramedics were loading Rebecca into an ambulance, Danielle Cooper was calmly shopping at a local grocery store. Security footage would later show her carefully selecting produce, chatting with a cashier, and loading groceries into her car. She appeared completely at ease. Nothing in her demeanor suggested she had just left her childhood best friend bleeding out on a living room floor. What investigators didn't know that evening was that these two women friends since the 4th grade shared a history far more complex than typical childhood friendship. Beneath their social media posts showing vacations together and celebrations of life milestones lay a darker connection. Rebecca had a secret. Danielle had known about it for 15 years. And on that Thursday in May, that knowledge would prove nearly fatal. The initial investigation focused on Rebecca's ex-boyfriend, a man with a history of domestic violence complaints. Detectives interrogated him for hours before confirming his alibi. He had been at work, visible on security cameras throughout his shift. The evidence didn't point to him. In fact, initial evidence didn't point clearly to anyone. Rebecca remained in critical condition for 3 days. Doctors performed 2 emergency surgeries to repair damage to her liver and stop internal bleeding. Detective Sarah Loomis sat by Rebecca's hospital bed, waiting for any moment of consciousness that might provide a clue to her attacker's identity. When Rebecca finally opened her eyes on the 3rd day, her first words stunned the investigation team. Danielle. It was Danielle. The attempted murder of Rebecca Mitchell would soon reveal a web of secrets, blackmail, and stolen identity that had been building since both women were 12 years old. Their shared history contained the seeds of violence that would eventually explode in that suburban living room. Lakeside Heights had not seen a violent crime of this magnitude in over a decade. The community of 15,000 prided itself on safety and tight community bonds. Properties regularly passed from one generation to another, creating an environment where neighbors had known each other for decades. The Mitchell and Cooper families both had deep roots in the area. Their daughters had grown up 3 blocks from each other, attended the same schools, and remained friends into adulthood despite taking different paths after high school. Rebecca had stayed local, attending Michigan State University before returning to work as a pharmaceutical sales representative. Danielle had moved away for college, but returned to Lakeside Heights 5 years before the attack. Both women were well known in the community. Neither had criminal records. From the outside, their friendship appeared normal, perhaps even enviable. Social media accounts showed birthday celebrations, holiday gatherings, and weekend trips together. 2 months before the attack, they had posted photos from a weekend getaway to Chicago. The brutal attack happened on an ordinary Thursday evening. Rebecca had worked from home that day. Phone records showed a text exchange between the women at 4:35 p.m. Danielle had asked if she could stop by around 6 p.m. to drop off a book she had borrowed. Rebecca agreed. Neighbors reported seeing Danielle's blue Honda Civic parked in Rebecca's driveway at approximately 6:10 p.m. No one heard screams or unusual noises. The attack occurred in the back of the house, away from neighboring properties. At 7:23 p.m., Rebecca managed to reach her phone and dial 911. The recording captured her labored breathing and weak voice. "Help me. I'm bleeding. She stabbed me." When the dispatcher asked who had attacked her, Rebecca lost consciousness before responding God after giving her statement naming Danielle as her attacker. Rebecca's condition deteriorated. A pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in her lung resulting from her injuries, causes severe complications. Medical staff placed her in a medically induced coma to stabilize her condition. Detective Loomis now faced the challenge of building a case against Danielle Cooper without additional testimony from the victim. The investigation would uncover a history between the two women that nobody in their circle had fully understood. What appeared to be a lifelong friendship had evolved into something far more dangerous. Danielle Cooper possessed knowledge about Rebecca Mitchell that had given her power she had wielded with increasing control over 15 years, until the relationship reached its breaking point 20-4 hours after Rebecca named her attacker. Police arrested Danielle Cooper at her apartment. She appeared genuinely shocked by the accusation. "This is insane," she told officers as they placed her in handcuffs. "Rebecca is my best friend. I would never hurt her." The evidence, however, would tell a different story, one that began in middle school and culminated in a meticulously planned attack designed to silence Rebecca permanently. Lakeside Heights sits 30 miles north of Detroit, a middle-class suburb with tree-lined streets and well-maintained homes built primarily in the 1970s and 80s. The community centers around a small downtown area with locally owned businesses and a public park bordering the small lake that gives the town its name. Crime rates consistently remain below state and national averages. The local police department employs 18 officers who typically handle minor offenses, occasional break-ins, traffic violations, and teenage vandalism. Rebecca Mitchell grew up in a 2-story colonial home on Maple Street with her parents and younger brother. Teachers and neighbors described her as studious and responsible. School records show she maintained a 3.8 GPA through high school and participated in volleyball and student government. Her father, Thomas Mitchell, worked as an accountant at a firm in Detroit. Her mother, Karaine Mitchell, taught 2nd grade at Lakeside Elementary. A family was well respected in the community, regularly attending the local Methodist church and participating in town events. Danielle Cooper lived on Elm Drive in a ranch-style home with her mother, Sandra Cooper, a nurse at the regional hospital. Danielle's father had died from cancer when she was 9 years old. School records indicate Danielle was an average student who excelled in creative writing and drama. Teachers noted her charismatic personality and ability to make friends easily. She participated in the school theater program, often securing lead roles in productions. The Cooper family had less financial stability than the Mitchells, particularly after the father's death. Sandra Cooper worked double shifts to maintain their middle-class lifestyle. The friendship between Rebecca and Danielle began in 4th grade when they were seated alphabetically next to each other. Despite their different personalities, Rebecca more reserved, Danielle outgoing, they formed a quick bond. By middle school, they were inseparable. Yearbook photos from Lakeside Middle School show them together at school dances, sports events, and academic competitions. Teachers and parents viewed their friendship positively, noting how they seemed to balance each other. The summer before 8th grade marked a critical turning point in their relationship. Both girls attended Camp Evergreen, a 2-week summer camp 50 miles north of Lakeside Heights. According to later investigation findings, something significant occurred during those 2 weeks, something that would fundamentally alter the dynamic between them. After high school graduation in 2009, Rebecca attended Michigan State University, majoring in biology with plans to enter medical school. Financial constraints and average test scores prevented her from pursuing that path fully, leading her instead to pharmaceutical sales. Danielle enrolled at New York University to study theater, but dropped out after 2 years, citing financial difficulties. She moved to Chicago, working various retail and administrative jobs before returning to Lakeside Heights in 2013. Upon Danielle's return to their hometown, the friendship rekindled. Rebecca had recently purchased a small house near the Lake Osaka, significant accomplishment for a 27-year-old in the area. Her career in pharmaceutical sales provided financial stability. She had dated several men but remained single, focusing primarily on her career advancement. Danielle, meanwhile, secured a position as an administrative assistant at a local insurance company. She lived in a one-bedroom apartment near downtown and had recently ended a long-term relationship. Glasses of wine were found on the coffee table one barely touched, Rebecca's, and one social media records show an active friendship between 2013 and 2018. The women frequently commented on each other's posts, shared photos of joint activities, and appeared genuinely connected. Rebecca's colleagues reported that she often mentioned Danielle, describing her as practically family, and my oldest friend. Similarly, Danielle's coworkers knew about her friendship with Rebecca, though some noted Danielle occasionally made cryptic comments about knowing where bodies are buried. Regarding her friendship with Rebecca Dot in the months leading up to the attack, subtle changes appeared in their social media interactions. Rebecca posted less frequently about their activities together. Text messages recovered from Rebecca's phone showed increasingly tense exchanges, with Rebecca often apologizing for perceived slights or making excuses for not being available. 3 weeks before the attack, security cameras at a local restaurant captured footage of the women having lunch. Body language experts who later analyzed the video noted Rebecca's defensive posture and Danielle's dominating position. What people in Lakeside Heights didn't know, what would only become clear after the attack, was that the foundation of this lifelong friendship had been built on leverage, not loyalty. A secret from their childhood had created an imbalance of power that had quietly shaped their interactions for 15 years. That power dynamic had been intensifying in recent months until it finally exploded in violence. The events of May 17, 2018, began as an ordinary day for both women. Rebecca Mitchell's calendar showed a light workday with 2 virtual meetings scheduled in the morning. She had emailed reports to her supervisor at 3:42 p.m., indicating she had completed her work for the day. Her browser history showed she had been researching vacation destinations in California shortly before Danielle's text arrived at 4:35 p.m. The text message from Danielle was casual. "Hey, I finished that book you lent me. Can I drop it by around 6? Also have something I want to talk to you about." Rebecca's response came 11 minutes later. "Sure, I'll be home. Everything okay?" Danielle replied with a thumbs-up emoji. This exchange gave no indication of the violence that would follow. Cell tower data placed Danielle's phone at her apartment until 5:47 p.m. She then drove directly to Rebecca's house, arriving at approximately 6:10 p.m. A neighbor walking his dog confirmed seeing Danielle's blue Honda Civic pull into Rebecca's driveway. He noted that Danielle waved to him, a normal, friendly gesture that suggested nothing unusual was about to occur. Security camera footage from a house 2 doors down captured Danielle approaching Rebecca's front door, carrying what appeared to be a book and a small bag. She was dressed in jeans and a light blue sweater. The footage shows Rebecca opening the door and Danielle entering at 6:12 p.m. This would be the last external visual evidence before the attack. What happened inside? The house was initially pieced together from physical evidence and later from Rebecca's testimony. The women apparently had a conversation in the living room. 2 half-empty, Danielle's. At some point, the interaction escalated dramatically. Evidence indicated the attack began in the living room, with signs of a struggle moving through the space. Weapon used was a kitchen knife from Rebecca's own knife block. Forensic analysts determined it had been taken from the kitchen during the visit, not brought by Danielle. The initial attack occurred near the couch, with blood spatteth our evidence showing Rebecca had been sitting when the first stab wound was inflicted to her shoulder. Defensive wounds on Rebecca's hands and forearms showed she had attempted to protect herself. The struggle moved across the living room. A coffee table was overturned, and a lamp was broken in what appeared to be Rebecca's attempt to defend herself. Blood evidence showed she had been stabbed multiple times during this movement, twice in the abdomen and once in the back, as she apparently tried to flee toward the front door. The final and most severe wound was delivered near the entrance to the hallway, where Rebecca ultimately collapsed. In total, Rebecca sustained 7 stab wounds. The most serious penetrated her liver, causing significant internal bleeding. After the attack, the assailant did not immediately flee. Evidence showed someone had washed their hands in the kitchen sink. Water droplets mixed with blood created a trail from the living room to the kitchen and back. The weapon was not taken, but left on the floor near Rebecca's body. The kitchen sink contained diluted blood residue, indicating the attacker had attempted to clean up. However, significant blood evidence remained throughout the scene. Blood was found on the front doorknob, indicating the attacker had blood on their hands when leaving the premises. Rebecca remained conscious long enough to drag herself to her phone, which had fallen under the coffee table during the struggle. The 911 call was placed at 7:23 p.m., approximately 70 minutes after Danielle had entered the house. During this time, Rebecca had been bleeding severely on her living room floor. While Rebecca fought for her life, Danielle Cooper's movements were methodical. Security footage from a gas station 1 mile from Rebecca's house showed Danielle purchasing a bottle of water at 7:09 p.m. She appeared calm, engaging in brief conversation with the clerk. She then drove to Lakeview Shopping Center, arriving at 7:19 p.m. Store cameras captured her shopping for groceries for approximately 25 minutes. Nothing in her demeanor suggested she had just committed a violent assault. After shopping, Danielle drove directly to her apartment, arriving at 7:58 p.m. Her movements were tracked through her cell phone, location data, and various security cameras throughout town. At no point did she appear rushed or distressed. She made no attempt to establish an alibi by contacting friends or making herself visible in public places. This behavior would later be described by prosecutors as showing shocking calculation and absence of remorse. First responders arrived at Rebecca's house at 7:31 p.m., 8 minutes after her 911 call. Paramedic reports described finding her unconscious, but with detectable vital signs. Her blood pressure was dangerously low due to blood loss. Emergency medical intervention included 2 4-lines and immediate transport to Lakeside Regional Hospital, where surgeons performed emergency surgery lasting 5 hours. Detective Sarah Loomis arrived at the scene at 7:45 p.m. With 18 years of experience in violent crimes, she immediately recognized the severity of the situation. The crime scene unit processed the house, collecting blood evidence, fingerprints, and potential DNA samples. Fingerprints matching Danielle Cooper were found throughout the living room, on a wine glass, and on the front door, though this was not immediately suspicious given their friendship and Danielle's frequent visits to the house. What made the investigation team suspicious was a single bloody fingerprint found on the knife handle. Initial analysis suggested it might match Danielle's prints on file from her employment background check at the insurance company. This evidence, combined with the neighbor's confirmation that Danielle had visited that evening, made her a person of interest within hours of the attack. While Rebecca Mitchell underwent emergency surgery, detectives began building a timeline of events. The lack of forced entry, the use of a weapon from the victim's own kitchen, and the controlled exit from the scene all suggested the attack was personal rather than random. When Rebecca regained consciousness briefly on May 20th and named Danielle as her attacker, police had enough to make an arrest. Officers arrested Danielle Cooper at her apartment on May 21st at 8:15 a.m. She was wearing pajamas and appeared genuinely shocked by the accusations. Her apartment showed no signs of hasty cleaning or evidence disposal. The clothes she had worn during the attack were found in her hamper, already washed but still containing trace evidence of blood in the fabric weave, evidence that would later prove crucial in the prosecution's case. Detective Sarah Loomis led the investigation, assembling a team of 4 officers dedicated to the case. Their first priority was processing the physical evidence from Rebecca's home. The crime scene yielded significant evidence. Blood spatter patterns indicated a chaotic struggle. Fingerprints were collected from multiple surfaces, and the murder weapon, a kitchen knife from Rebecca's own set, contained both the victim's and suspect's DNA. Forensic technicians collected hair samples, fabric fibers, and swabbed for DNA throughout the house. The wine glasses provided clear fingerprints matching both women. Analysis of Rebecca's phone revealed the text exchange arranging Danielle's visit. Additionally, data from both women's fitness trackers would later provide critical timeline evidence, showing elevated heart rates for both women during the time frame of the attack. Upon obtaining a search warrant for Danielle Cooper's apartment and vehicle, investigators discovered seemingly contradictory evidence. Her apartment was immaculately clean, with no obvious signs of evidence tampering. However, forensic luminol testing revealed traces of cleaned blood in her bathroom sink. In her car, investigators found a grocery receipt from the evening of the attack. Supporting her claim of shopping at the time, Rebecca was calling 911. Financial records revealed a more recent and disturbing pattern. Over the past 5 years, Rebecca had transferred over $32,000 to Danielle through various payment apps and bank transfers. The payments started small, $200 here, $150 there, but had increased significantly in recent months. The last payment, just 2 weeks before the most damning physical evidence came from Danielle's washing machine. Despite her attempt to clean her clothing, advanced forensic testing detected blood matching Rebecca's DNA, embedded in the fibers of a light blue sweater, the same sweater security footage showed her wearing when entering Rebecca's house. The washing had removed visible blood, but not microscopic traces caught in the fabric weave. Loomis expanded the investigation beyond physical evidence, digging into the history between the 2 women. Interviews with mutual friends revealed subtle tensions in recent months. 3 separate acquaintances mentioned hearing Danielle make references to knowing something about Rebecca that would ruin her if it got out. None knew what this secret might be. A breakthrough came when investigators accessed both women's email and cloud storage accounts through warrants. Documents in Danielle's cloud storage revealed an extensive folder labeled R_leverage, containing photos, scanned documents, and text files dating back 15 years. The content provided the first concrete indication of the secret that bound these women together. The investigation revealed that in summer 2003, during their time at Camp Evergreen, 12-year-old Rebecca had been involved in a serious incident. Camp records confirmed that a counselor had been severely injured after falling down a steep trail near the lake. The official report listed the incident as an accident, but Danielle's files included a diary entry from that summer with a different account, one claiming Rebecca had deliberately pushed the counselor after being disciplined for breaking camp. Rules. The counselor, Matthew Brennan, had suffered a traumatic brain injury that ended his teaching career. No charges had ever been filed, as the incident was ruled accidental. However, Danielle's diary contained detailed descriptions of what she claimed to have witnessed. Rebecca arguing with the counselor, following him to the isolated trail, and pushing him during a confrontation. The diary entry included the line, "No one would believe a 12-year-old could do this on purpose, but I saw it. And Rebecca knows I saw." The investigation took an unexpected turn when Detective Loomis tracked down Matthew Brennan, now living in Oregon. The interview revealed he had no memory of the moments before his fall due to the brain injury, but he remembered Rebecca being nearby shortly before the incident. He had never suspected foul play, but acknowledged that the trail had a safety railing that made an accidental fall unlikely. Attack was for $3,500. When confronted with this evidence during interrogation, Danielle claimed these were loans between friends. However, Rebecca's financial records showed she had been taking advances on her credit cards to make these payments, accumulating substantial debt despite her good salary. Text messages recovered from both women's phones painted a picture of escalating tension. 2 months before the attack, Rebecca had written, "I can't do this anymore. I've given you everything I have." Danielle's response was chilling in its simplicity. "You know what happens if you stop. Your choice." The investigation revealed that 1 week before the attack, Rebecca had met with an attorney specializing in criminal cases. The lawyer's notes, obtained through a warrant, indicated Rebecca had been exploring the statute of limitations for juvenile offenses and the legal implications of coming forward about a past incident. The attorney had advised her that at her current age, any prosecution for a childhood incident would be highly unlikely, especially without new evidence. Detective Loomis theorized that this consultation represented Rebecca's breaking point after 15 years of blackmail. She was preparing to come clean about whatever had happened at the camp, eliminating Danielle's leverage. This development provided a strong motive for the attack. 3 weeks into the investigation, with Rebecca still recovering in the hospital, the case against Danielle Cooper had grown substantial. Physical evidence placed her at the scene. Forensic evidence tied her to the weapon. Financial records and electronic communications established a pattern of blackmail, and the victim's own statement named her as the attacker. The district attorney filed attempted murder charges, and Danielle was held without bail pending trial. 6 weeks into the investigation, as Rebecca Mitchell continued her recovery, the case took an unexpected turn. Rebecca's mother, Corinne Mitchell, approached Detective Loomis with information that would fundamentally alter their understanding of both women's histories. Corinne had been cleaning Rebecca's home in preparation for her eventual return from the hospital when she discovered a hidden safe in the back of a closet. Inside was a USB drive containing documents that contradicted key elements of the case. The USB drive contained Rebecca's own detailed records of her relationship with Danielle. These records revealed that the power dynamic between the women was far more complex than investigators had initially understood. The Camp Evergreen incident had indeed occurred, but Rebecca's account differed significantly from the narrative found in Danielle's files. According to Rebecca's records, both girls had been present during the confrontation with the counselor. The push that caused Matthew Brennan's fall had been accidental, the result of both girls struggling with him after he caught them breaking into the camp office to steal exam answers for the following school year. This revelation was startling, but what followed was even more unexpected. Rebecca's documents showed that after the incident, Danielle had crafted a narrative placing sole blame on Rebecca. This version of events became the basis for 15 years of manipulation. However, Rebecca had been maintaining her own leverage. Extensive documentation of financial fraud committed by Danielle. The files revealed that in 2013, when Danielle returned to Lakeside Heights after dropping out of college, she had stolen Rebecca's identity to obtain credit cards and loans totaling over $65,000. Rebecca had discovered the fraud within months, but rather than reporting Danielle, had used this knowledge as counter-leverage. The loans Rebecca had been making to Danielle were actually payments toward these fraudulent debts to protect her own credit rating while maintaining evidence of Danielle's crimes. This mutual blackmail explained the increasingly strained relationship visible in their communications. Both women held destructive information about the other, creating a toxic balance of power that had maintained their outwardly normal friendship. The most shocking document on the USB drive was a recorded phone conversation from 1 month before the attack. In it, Rebecca informed Danielle that she had consulted an attorney and was prepared to come forward about both the camp incident and the identity theft. Danielle's response included explicit threats. "If you take me down, I'll make sure everyone knows what you did to Brennan. Your career will be over. And there's more you don't know about things I've set in motion that will destroy your family too." Detective Loomis immediately ordered a more thorough search of Danielle Cooper's apartment. In a hidden compartment beneath her bathroom sink, investigators discovered multiple forms of false identification, including IDs with Rebecca's personal information, but Danielle's photo. They also found evidence that Danielle had recently created social media accounts in Rebecca's name, which she was using to communicate inappropriately with Rebecca's male clients in the pharmaceutical industry. This discovery pointed to an even more disturbing element of Danielle's plan. She had been systematically working to damage Rebecca's professional reputation by impersonating her online. Several of Rebecca's clients confirmed receiving inappropriate messages they believed were from Rebecca messages that had made them uncomfortable enough to consider ending their business relationships with her. The investigation took another unexpected turn when police gained access to Danielle's computer. Her search history revealed extensive research on untraceable poisons, methods of staged suicides, and inheritance laws in Michigan. Most disturbingly, she had researched how to access Rebecca's retirement accounts and insurance policies. This suggested the knife attack had not been a crime of passion or a sudden response to Rebecca's threat to come clean. It was part of a calculated plan to eliminate Rebecca permanently. Further investigation into Danielle's background uncovered previously unknown aspects of her personality and history. 3 former roommates from Chicago came forward with accounts of Danielle's manipulative behavior, including incidents of stealing their identities for small loans and credit cards. One described waking up to find Danielle photographing her identification documents while she slept. Perhaps the most disturbing revelation came from Danielle's former therapist, who, after being legally released from confidentiality obligations due to the imminent danger exception, revealed that Danielle had exhibited signs of obsessive attachment to Rebecca. During sessions 3 years earlier, Danielle had described feeling that she and Rebecca were 2 halves of the same person, and expressed anger when Rebecca developed relationships with others. The therapist had documented concerns about potential personality disorders characterized by lack of empathy and manipulative behavior. As Rebecca's physical condition improved, she provided a full statement to investigators. She described a 15-year relationship defined by mutual secrets and escalating manipulation. "We were trapped in each other's lives," she explained, "each of us knowing something that could destroy the other. It was never friendship, it was mutually assured destruction." Rebecca admitted her role in the camp counselor's injury and the subsequent cover-up. She also acknowledged her decision to handle Danielle's identity theft privately, rather than involving authorities, a choice she now recognized had enabled Danielle's continued manipulation and ultimately led to the attack. The final shock came when forensic accountants discovered Danielle had recently taken out a life insurance policy on Rebecca, naming herself as beneficiary by forging documents that claimed she was Rebecca's cousin. The policy, worth $500,000, had been activated just 1 month before the attack. This provided definitive evidence of premeditation and financial motivation for the attempted murder. The case against Danielle Cooper had evolved from a seemingly straightforward attempted murder to a complex web of long-term manipulation, identity theft, fraud, and meticulously planned homicide. What had begun as childhood secret-keeping had developed into a dangerous psychological bond that nearly ended in murder. The trial of Danielle Cooper began on November 12, 2018, 6 months after the attack. The Oakland County District Attorney's Office charged her with attempted first-degree murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, identity theft, fraud, and forgery. If convicted on all counts, she faced up to life in prison. Public interest in the case was intense. Local and national media covered the trial extensively, drawn to the narrative of childhood friends turned enemies. The courtroom was filled to capacity each day with spectators, journalists, and community members seeking to understand how a seemingly normal friendship had deteriorated into violence. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Michael Harmon, presented a methodical case built on physical evidence, financial records, and Rebecca Mitchell's testimony. Forensic experts explained how blood evidence tied Danielle to the crime scene, despite her cleanup attempts. Financial investigators detailed the complex history of blackmail and identity theft that had characterized the relationship between the two women for years. Rebecca Mitchell took the stand on the third day of the trial, now physically recovered, but bearing visible scars from the attack. She testified for 6 hours about the history between them, beginning with the incident at Camp Evergreen and continuing through years of mutual blackmail and manipulation. Her testimony was direct and unflinching, acknowledging her own role in maintaining the toxic relationship rather than seeking help from authorities. "I convinced myself it was easier to pay her than to come forward," Rebecca testified. "I was afraid of losing my reputation, my career. That fear nearly cost me my life." The defense strategy, led by attorney Jennifer Walsh, attempted to portray Rebecca as an equal participant in a relationship defined by mutual wrongdoing. Walsh argued that Danielle had been defending herself during a confrontation that escalated beyond either woman's control. This narrative quickly collapsed under the weight of evidence showing Danielle's extensive premeditation, including the life insurance policy and research into untraceable poisons. In a surprise development, Matthew Brennan, the camp counselor injured 15 years earlier, testified for the prosecution. Though his memory of the incident remained impaired by his traumatic brain injury, his presence in the courtroom provided powerful context for the origin of the women's toxic bond. He described the life-altering consequences of his injuries, the end of his teaching career, years of rehabilitation, and ongoing cognitive challenges. After 8 days of testimony, the jury deliberated for just 4 hours before returning a verdict. Danielle Cooper was found guilty on all counts. 3 weeks later, Judge Thomas Reynolds delivered the sentence: 25 years for attempted first-degree murder, with additional concurrent sentences for the financial crimes. In his remarks, Judge Reynolds noted the extraordinary level of calculation involved in the crime. "This case represents one of the most disturbing examples of premeditated violence this court has encountered," he stated. What began as childhood secret-keeping evolved into a pattern of manipulation that nearly ended in murder. The defendants' actions show not just a momentary lapse in judgment, but years of escalating predatory behavior. Danielle Cooper showed no visible reaction as the sentence was announced. She declined to make a statement to the court. Her attorney immediately filed notice of appeal, questioning the admissibility of certain evidence from her therapy sessions. Rebecca Mitchell did address the court during the sentencing hearing. "The person I've known since childhood tried to kill me rather than lose control over me," she said. "Today I'm finally free of that control, but I'll never be free of the knowledge that I enabled it for so many years by choosing secrecy over honesty." Following the trial, Rebecca filed civil suits against Danielle for damages related to identity theft and fraud. These were quickly adjudicated in her favor, though the likelihood of collecting monetary damages remained low due to Danielle's incarceration, and lack of assets. The case of Rebecca Mitchell and Danielle Cooper stands as a stark illustration of how childhood secrets can evolve into dangerous adult obsessions. What began as two 12-year-old girls concealing their role in an accident transformed over 15 years into a complex web of blackmail, identity theft, and ultimately attempted murder. In the aftermath of the trial, Lakeside Heights struggled to reconcile the community's image of these women with the disturbing reality revealed in court. Neighbors who had watched them grow up together and maintain an apparently normal friendship were forced to recognize how effectively the facade had hidden the toxic relationship underneath. Rebecca Mitchell's recovery continued beyond her physical healing. She entered therapy to address the psychological impact of 15 years of manipulation and the violent attack that nearly ended her life. 6 months after the trial concluded, she sold her house in Lakeside Heights and moved to Colorado, seeking a fresh start away from the community, where her history with Danielle had unfolded. In a single interview granted to a national news magazine, Rebecca explained her decision to leave. "Every street corner here holds a memory of our friendship. Every local business has some connection to our shared history. I need to build a life that isn't defined by that relationship." The case prompted important conversations about the nature of long-term manipulation and the signs of controlling relationships. Mental health professionals pointed to several warning signs that had been visible in retrospect. Danielle's increasing isolation of Rebecca from other friends, the financial control evidenced by the regular payments, and the gradual withdrawal from other relationships that Rebecca had experienced in the months leading up to the attack. Matthew Brennan, the camp counselor whose injury had set the entire chain of events in motion, established a foundation focused on outdoor safety for youth programs and rehabilitation support for adults with traumatic brain injuries. In media appearances, he emphasized the importance of creating environments where young people feel safe reporting accidents and injuries without fear of punishment. The legal system's handling of the case raised questions about how justice addresses complex relationships involving mutual wrongdoing of different severities. While Rebecca had participated in covering up the camp incident and had not reported Danielle's identity theft, the court clearly differentiated between these actions and Danielle's escalation to attempted murder. Now serving her sentence at the Michigan Women's Correctional Facility, Danielle Cooper has maintained her silence. She declined all interview requests and limited her visitors to immediate family. Prison records indicate she has participated minimally in rehabilitation programs, showing little engagement with psychological services offered by the institution. Investigators like Detective Sarah Loomis, the case highlighted the challenges of unraveling long-standing patterns of control and manipulation. Most violent crimes we investigate occur in a defined time frame, Loomis noted in a Law Enforcement Journal article about the case. This was different, a relationship that had been building toward violence for 15 years, hidden in plain sight in a community where everyone thought they knew these women. The small safe in Rebecca's closet containing the USB drive that revealed the full complexity of their relationship serves as a powerful symbol of the case. Like the secrets both women kept, it remained hidden until circumstances forced it into the open. The contents of that safe ultimately saved Rebecca twice. First by providing evidence against Danielle, and then by allowing her to finally break free from a relationship built on mutual destruction. The case of Rebecca Mitchell and Danielle Cooper remains a cautionary tale about the dangers of secrets maintained too long, the insidious nature of psychological control, and how even the most seemingly normal relationships can harbor dangerous undercurrents. It demonstrates how childhood events, when buried rather than addressed, can cast shadows that extend decades into the future, sometimes with nearly fatal consequences. What began at summer camp between two 12-year-old girls ended in a courtroom. 15 years later, with one woman sentenced to decades in prison and the other left to rebuild a life free from the weight of secrets that had nearly destroyed her. Their story serves as a reminder that sometimes the people who know us best, hold our oldest secrets, can pose the greatest threat when those secrets become weapons.